Welcome back to the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. Today we are going to be talking all things thyroid health. Why your labs might say you feel normal, but you actually feel anything but. We'll bust the myth that TSH tells the whole story. We're going to share a patient win, and stay tuned till the end where we will give you one tangible thing you can take home today to start supporting your thyroid naturally. As a reminder, this is not medical advice. It is for educational purposes only and does not replace a one-on-one relationship with your provider. So let's get into it.
Alrighty, we are back for another episode of the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. We're going to be wrapping up our hormone talk today.
Kind of.
Right? We're going to be going, we talked about female hormones and the female cycle. Then we talked about the male hormones. We talked about the adrenals and cortisol. And now today we're going to be talking about the thyroid. So we're basically covering all of our bases with how hormones work within the body, covering all different types of hormones, and then maybe moving on to
insulin.
Is that what we're going to next?
Yeah.
Okay. We're not wrapping it up. So anything else crazy that's happened this week for you?
Well, not really. Just Vinny doesn't like to sleep at night anymore.
Also, Vinny is now walking.
Yeah,
that's
like
super
a
cool.
Crazy man. This kid literally went from crawling everywhere and he walked couple steps here and there, and now it's like he doesn't crawl anymore.
Yeah, I think he signed up for a 5K the other day.
Yeah.
That's how much he's...
Yeah. And he wobbles back and forth.
It's so funny. Today at our team meeting, he was walking back and forth in the lobby and he just kept hitting his head on the watering fountain. And
he would just hit his head and walk away.
Didn't even
come
care.
Back, and then come back and do it again.
Could you imagine if we did that? If we accidentally hit our head on something,
No.
we'd overreact.
You'd have one of those dad crash outs that you see
yeah, those were super funny. All right, well, let's stop wasting time here. Let's get into everything thyroid today.
All right, we are in our root cause rundown. Let's break down what is the most common thing that we hear from a patient coming to us with thyroid issues.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably 99% of people who come to us with a thyroid diagnosis already. And it goes something like this, right? So maybe they start to develop symptoms. Their hair falls out, their nails, they're brittle and chipping. Maybe they can't lose weight. Maybe they're constipated. Maybe their skin is super dry, right? So they Google those symptoms and what comes up is a thyroid problem. And then they do the right thing. They go to their doctor and their doctor says, okay, well, we're going to run some basic labs. And they do. And the results come back and they say, hey, look, it sounds like you have something called hypothyroidism, but don't worry about it. Essentially, what's happening is your body's not making enough thyroid hormone, and we're going to replace that with something called levothyroxine or Synthroid, right? And then what happens is after you fast forward a little bit in time, 6 months later, they retest the labs, that those values start to even out. However, the symptoms are still staying there, right? They're still noticing the brain fog, the constipation, they can't lose weight, they have absolutely no energy at all, but their TSH value, which we'll get into today, is now within that normal, in quotes, normal range. Obviously, this is the story of hypothyroidism, but there's also a story of hyperthyroidism. We see it all the time, and right now, the way that it's being addressed is it's, here, take this, right? Is that typically what you see too?
Yeah. Yep. Here, just take this medication. We'll rerun your labs in 6 months. And they don't see any changes.
Right. And I'll post the statistics on this, but roughly 90% of all thyroid cases are actually due to an autoimmune condition. That can be either Hashimoto's disease or Graves' disease. Hashimoto's is the number one cause of hypothyroidism, and then Graves is the number one cause of hyperthyroidism. Hypothyroidism meaning you have low levels of thyroid hormone production, and then hyper meaning you're producing too much, right? Talk to me a little bit about what you notice, what goes through patients' minds when they're coming into us for that alternative approach. They've tried everything, their symptoms are still there. What are they coming to you, and what do they already know about the thyroid and their condition?
They really don't know much, honestly, because they're not really taught about it. They're told, yeah, I've had a full thyroid panel run. They come to me, they say, yeah, I've had a full thyroid panel. I say, okay, let me take a look at it. And it comes back, they show me their labs. It's TSH, T4, and maybe T3. Maybe T3. That's very rare,
Mm-hmm.
but that is not the full picture. Those are two different markers that really don't tell us anything. And honestly, TSH itself is not a thyroid hormone.
Yeah, it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's technically a brain hormone. So for all of you who want to kind of nerd out here for a second, essentially TSH is something that's communicated in the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
The anterior pituitary. Before that, it's actually TRH that's coming from the hypothalamus, and we'll dive into the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary we did last week,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll dive into that connection too. But basically, those pieces of the brain need to connect and communicate with the thyroid to produce thyroid hormone, which is that T4, that T3 that you were also mentioning that never gets tested.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially we have this negative feedback loop where our body will sense how much hormone we're making and then communicate back up with the brain. And then the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary will say, okay, make more or make less.
Mm-hmm.
Right. See, if you're dealing with a hyper or hypothyroid problem, wouldn't it be important to take a look at those actual values?
Yeah, I would
Right.
say so.
But it's never looked at. And I believe that the main reason for that is because endocrinologists, primary cares, their goal is to monitor one value, and that's the TSH due to medications and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
prescriptions,
Yeah,
right?
that's the only way they know how to manage it. Mm-hmm.
But if 90% of the time it's an autoimmune driven issue, why are we not diving into the immune system? How is the immune system functioning
It doesn't
at all?
change their course of treatment.
No.
Right.
A couple other things that can definitely drive this thyroid imbalance, whether it's producing too much hormone or too little, obviously is what we're eating, right? So there's some really key building blocks to making thyroid hormone. You hear about selenium all the time. That's probably the biggest buzzword when it comes to thyroid health.
Mm-hmm.
You can typically get those from Brazil nuts, but most people aren't getting enough.
Mm-mm.
You also need good levels of magnesium and zinc and copper and iron. You also need iodine, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need all of these building blocks, and a lot of these you can really get from red meat that
Mm-hmm.
people, we say this all the time, aren't getting enough of.
Mm-hmm.
Are the foods that we're growing, the plants, the vegetables, the fruits that we're eating aren't as dense in nutrients as they were before. So, and with all this ultra processed foods that we're doing, we're really lacking on a lot of key nutrients that are just playing a huge role in the puzzle too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
What other things can definitely disrupt thyroid hormone, that whole thyroid hormone story besides the immune system and production?
So there could be interference
Sure.
issues from things like fluoride, chlorine, if you're swimming in chlorinated swimming pools, brominated vegetables, brominated wine. So bromine, anything in the halogen category on the periodic table.
I'm going to throw up the periodic table just because I love
Yes,
it.
anything that interferes with iodine, right, can cause interference of thyroid hormone conversion, production, all of those things. So we want to make sure that we're monitoring those exposures, and removing what we can. So using, non-fluoridated toothpaste, leaning more towards like hydroxyapatite. Also, again, trying to avoid chlorine as much as possible, or using something on your skin to neutralize chlorine before you go swimming in pools. Dr. Collin and myself were both swimmers, right? So we've been exposed to chlorine quite a bit in our lifetime.
And what did it do to your thyroid?
I developed hypothyroidism
Mm-hmm.
from swimming in college.
Well, and I don't want to say it's Dr. Lena developed hypothyroidism only because she swam
Correct.
in chlorinated pools,
Right.
right? These are pieces that just add fuel to a fire
Mm-hmm.
or cause your body to work even harder.
Mm-hmm.
If you have genetic predispositions, which they are out there, if you're already insulin resistant, if you already have a different autoimmune diagnosis and your immune system already can't regulate itself, and then you're already adding on more chlorine, more ultra processed, brominated foods, you're adding in fluoride, you're not eating the nutrient dense food needed to make thyroid hormone, this stuff kind of snowballs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where really where when patients come to us, we start with a very, very simple approach. We don't need to complicate this, right? We're not going to go on this scavenger hunt in your home and look in every different nook and cranny right away for everything that's chlorine, bromine, fluoride, right? We have to get the fundamentals set. And that's our general tone when we work with patients right out the gate.
Yeah. What was crazy for me when I was diagnosed with hypo was I was literally just getting out of college. I didn't feel good. Like my gut felt terrible. Every time I ate something, I would feel bloated, constipated. I was so tired. I remember I had a boyfriend at the time, and he used to get so mad at me because I would complain about how tired I was all the time. He's like, "You need to go see the doctor." I'm like, okay. So I finally went to see the doctor after months of complaining about it. And I go in. I remember them pushing on my gallbladder, this specifically, because it hurt really bad. But they didn't say anything about it. They said, "Oh, that's your gallbladder." I'm like, "Okay, like what? Like why does it hurt when you're pressing on it?" And then they ran blood work, and I get a phone call from the front desk. Not even the doctor. Not an update from the doctor. A phone call from the front desk, and they say, "Yeah, you have hypothyroidism." I'm like, "Okay." So what do I do about that? They're like, "Oh, well, it's not bad enough yet to really do anything. So we'll just monitor it. And in 6 months, we'll retest it and see if it changes." I was like, "Is there anything I could do?" I asked this. I said, "Is there anything I can do proactively to prevent this from getting worse?" And they said, no, like it, nothing really, just monitor it and we'll retest it and see from
the
there.
wait and see.
Yeah. I was like, that's crazy.
And that's a common trend, not just in the hypothyroid or, thyroid space, but with almost all autoimmune driven conditions, right?
Yeah.
Let's just wait and see.
Yeah.
Until the labs show that they're worse enough where we can give you something to alter those values.
Yeah.
Another thing that we talk about all the time when it comes to thyroid health is how well you're converting your thyroid hormone. So you really have, I'll keep it simple here. You have two different types of thyroid hormone. You have T4 and you have T3. T4 is essentially your inactive hormone, and then T3 is essentially your active thyroid hormone. And our body needs to convert that hormone itself. Primarily, this is happening in the tissues, it's happening in the liver, and it's happening in the gut. I would say, let me ask you this. I won't say anything. What percentage of patients who are coming to you with a thyroid problem have poor liver health, liver function, or gut health?
100% of them.
Right.
Literally all of them.
And you commonly see, I commonly see this when I start running, functional labs. We see this problem with converting that hormone, right?
Yes.
And that's where if you're not taking a look at all of those hormone values, the total and free values of T4 and T3, you're never going to get a full picture on what's really going on.
Yeah, you could have totally normal free values, but your total values could still be lower, and you could still have hypothyroid symptoms because of that.
And it points you in the right direction on what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's a top-down approach, and you need to be tackling everything when it comes with hypothyroidism, especially because, like I said, 90% of the time it's immune system driven.
Yeah.
Right. So when we take a look at thyroid antibodies, which should be on every thyroid panel in the world, and you should always be monitoring it. When you start looking at those values and understanding, oh, there is that immune system component, that's where you almost have to shift gears and kind of ignore or not just focus on blood work, right? What's your favorite way to look at the immune system?
My favorite way, the gut.
Sure.
And food allergies are a big one.
And if you don't have the proper function within that gut lining, you have gut permeability, you have leaky gut, right? You have gut dysbiosis, you have poor, growth of the good beneficial bacteria, lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and you have overgrowths of bad bacteria or yeast, then your body's ability to regulate its immune system is not going to thrive.
Right. It's being triggered by so many different things. And if you want to learn more about leaky gut, we have a free guide that we will link in the description below talking about leaky gut, what it is, what you can do about it, how you can heal it. And if you heal your leaky gut, your autoimmune disease or condition can be healed as well.
So, and back to a little bit of the basics here for everyone who doesn't understand the whole thyroid story and what it is. It's a butterfly gland, sits right here in your neck. Essentially, it helps regulate your metabolism, right? It's
Mhm.
basically that master control switch for our body.
Mhm.
We have thyroid receptor sites on almost every cell in our body besides red blood cells. And here's what it looks like basically. So if you have hypothyroidism, think like everything slows down, right? That's where the constipation sets in, the dry skin, the hair falls out, you're tired all the time, you can't lose weight, everything slows down,
Mhm.
right? And then hyperthyroidism, it's almost the opposite. Anxiety, loose stools, oily skin, you can't, regulate temperature, heat that well,
You
right?
can't keep weight on.
You can't keep weight on, right?
Mhm.
So those are, and again, everyone's different, and you can, flip flop between the two, especially if there's an immune system component involved. But generally speaking, that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there aren't other factors that are driving the thyroid to basically give these values when we look at labs. There's also secondary and tertiary hypothyroidism where it's more of something going on with the pituitary or the hypothalamus,
Mhm.
tumors, masses, other things
Atrophy. Yeah.
that can contribute to the body not telling the thyroid to make thyroid hormone. That is really rare.
Mhm.
But I don't want to discredit it.
Yeah. I mean, then there are some people that are born without a thyroid too,
Mhm.
which is crazy. How's that work? How's that happen?
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot that our thyroidectomies.
Yeah, thyroidectomies are a big one, and they're so common
Hmm.
now. I don't know if it's just because we see it all the time that I think it's common, or if it's actually that common. But the amount of patients that I've seen or talked to that have said, "Yeah, my doctor said that my thyroid was basically destroyed, so we could just take it out, so it stopped causing all my problems." But it, like, why would what?
I feel like the motto right now with our organ systems is when in doubt, take them out.
Yeah, like
Right?
what? Like that is a really important organ. And then they struggle with medications after the fact because they can't get the dosing correct. And once they get it correct, but they undergo some sort of stressful event, they need a different dosing because then their symptoms start to come back, or they, and or they need a combo of T4 and T3, and they end up having a reaction to the T3 medication because it's all synthetic stuff. It's not real hormone.
Right.
And they just run into more issues and more problems down the road.
And that's where if you're not addressing what's really going on, right? If you don't take a look at the immune system, you don't look for thyroid antibodies, you don't make sure that you have the fundamentals set with your diet, right? You don't make sure that you have the fundamentals set with your lifestyle, making sure that you're not incorporating a bunch of things that disrupt your hormones, endocrine disruptors. You're never going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You're going to have these ups and downs like a roller coaster. There are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days, but at the end of the day, if you look over a 5-10 year span, you're not
Mhm.
going to improve. You end
Mhm.
up what most patients come to me and say is, yeah, I've slowly needed to up my dose year after year
Mhm.
or every
Yeah,
3 or 4 years.
they start on what, 55 micrograms, and then they end up on 135 after a year.
It's blink of an eye,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And like no one even no one blinks an eye at the fact that they have to increase their dose by that much in that period of time. They just say, "Oh, yeah, well,
Hmm.
that's just what I have to do." I literally had a patient today come in and tell me that she is now being prescribed a thyroid medication because they just found out that she has antibodies, Hashimoto's antibodies. I was like, just now? She's like older, right?
And
And
remember, the medications do not impact
no.
your immune system. The thyroid antibodies, for all of you that don't know, there's really three that we look at. We look at thyroid peroxidase antibodies. We look at TSI antibodies, which are more heavily associated with Graves' disease, and we look at antithyroglobulin antibodies.
Mhm.
Essentially, what they do is they can impact hormone production, hormone conversion, basically that entire process of how that thyroid hormone is made, matured, sent out.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Um, a couple other things without really diving into how everything works. I mean, because we can make 3 episodes on the thyroid.
Yeah.
But insulin resistance plays a huge role in thyroid function, and I would like to say that estrogen dominance does as well.
Mhm.
the fact that our body transports hormones
Mm-hmm.
with a common transporter. If we have a lot of estrogen, our body's going to have a lot of difficulty or transporting that thyroid hormone as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think just leaving it as that without boring people,
Yeah.
I think is important.
Yeah. I feel like thyroid disorders are just so common these days. What, 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with a thyroid disease, whether
Yeah.
that's Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, Graves, whatever it is. Graves, I would say, is way less common than Hashimoto's.
100%.
But I feel like with Graves, it is from my perspective clinically, it has been a lot harder to work with Graves than it is with Hashimoto's as far as healing. I think it takes a longer amount of time to heal from Graves because the stress on the body is so great. But I've had success with it. One of my best patients, she has done tremendous in her journey as far as healing from Graves.
Mm-hmm.
When she first came to see me, her labs were terrible, like absolutely terrible. TSH was like 0. And it's like, okay, you should probably go to your doctor and she didn't want to start a medication. I said, you need to go to the doctor and talk to them.
That's really important, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we preach all the time. Obviously, everyone is excited to jump on like the holistic journey and feel like that's all they need to do. There's a time and a place for
Yeah.
modern medicine. They do a really good job to like for what
those
they're
emergency cases. Yeah. And I
right.
said, you're going to have a heart attack if you don't go to the doctor and get this figured out, at least until we can calm things down.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to, do a low dose of her med and was able to, get to a point where she could function daily without going into a complete flare up. But we worked on her gut. She had a parasite. She had fungal overgrowth. She had bacterial overgrowth, a ton of food allergies, leaky gut.
Mold?
I didn't test for mold. We didn't, because I saw the parasite and I was like, okay, we need to work on this first. And she's done tremendous. She did great through her parasite work. And I reran her thyroid labs, and her T4 and T3 values were normal. They were normal. They used to be through the roof. Her TSH was still lower, so if a endocrinologist saw that, they would see the TSH and be like, oh, we still need to medicate you. But if you look at her thyroid hormones themselves, they were normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is awesome. So she still had some antibody issues, obviously.
And it's when it comes to autoimmune thyroid disease, right? Hashimoto's, Graves, and almost any autoimmune condition, right? There are no cures for autoimmune diseases. You can put them into remission, but it's going to take lifelong work and effort.
Yes.
And that's not going to be the same thing year after year.
Yeah.
There are going to be new stressors that you encounter. Maybe you get a new job, right? Maybe you move into a new environment, right?
You have a baby.
Maybe you have a baby. Maybe your diet changes. Maybe the foods that you're eating changes than what they were 4 or 5 years ago. I know they have for me, right? You encounter a parasite, your microbiome changes. Maybe you move into a place that has mold. There are so many different factors that can definitely impact how your immune system regulates itself. And it's important to keep up with that. Otherwise, that's where you can really easily slip back into a flare.
Yep.
And sometimes those are hard to get back out of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we see that a lot too, is people will start to feel really good and then they think they can slack off, and then their autoimmune disease flares up again and they're like, what the heck? What did I do? It's like, well, you weren't doing what you were supposed to do.
Yeah. You feel good for a while and then you
get comfortable.
You get comfortable. That happened with me to an extent. It didn't really happen with my gut, where, obviously I have Crohn's. I never have had another flare. But skin has flared up when I have slacked off. Energy, testosterone, we talked about that before as well, have definitely been impacted just because slacking off.
Yeah.
And I know it can feel super overwhelming, but you might have to work a little bit harder than than the woman or the man sitting next to you, right? If you have a diagnosed thyroid disease, right, and especially if it's autoimmune in nature, you're going to have to work a little bit harder than the average Joe.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's just your reality. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in this segment? I feel like we broke down how the thyroid works, things that can impact it. We talked a little bit about thyroid medication.
Let's just reiterate, right? So with any thyroid disease, there could be one of 4 problems happening, right? Production issue. Okay. That's mostly going to stem from issues with communication between the brain and the thyroid, right? Conversion issue. Where do we look for conversion issues?
Tissues, liver, gut.
Biggest one is probably the gut, right? And then the third one is interference, right? So that's your fluoride, your chlorine, your bromine, avoiding things with halogens. Could also be other things that interfere with iodine absorption, right?
Also, birth control
Uh,
can impact this as well.
Yep. Lots of medications,
Sure.
right? Birth control is probably the biggest one
Mhm.
because obviously it impacts estrogen.
There's a study I'll post up here as well about your likelihood of developing, was it hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's if you were on birth control.
Yeah.
I'll post a study here. It's actually widely cited by several endocrinologists.
Yep. And then the last thing was the destruction component, which is from the autoimmune disease, right? Sure. Which again, 90% of the time, if you have a hypothyroid or hyperthyroid problem, it is autoimmune in nature. So you need to be looking at immune system stressors.
Awesome. I think that breaks it down pretty well.
Yeah.
This is probably our favorite topic to talk about. We tried to keep it pretty simple. If you want more detail on thyroid, you can go to our Instagram, our TikTok. We have hundreds of videos and playlists on the thyroid alone, individual playlists for hypo, for hyper, for Graves, for Hashimoto's. It's almost endless content on the thyroid.
Right. And if you're wanting to get your labs completely tested for your thyroid, that's looking more than just at TSH and T4, make sure you click the link in our description below and book a free discovery call with us, and let's get the ball rolling.
Awesome. Are we ready to move on to our next section?
Yes, Mythbusters.
Let's do it. Alrighty, we are on to our Mythbusters segment. I'm excited for today's. What is it?
Today's myth is that TSH is the only lab value that you need. Wrong.
I think we said that last time. Yes, not at all, right?
So what is TSH?
TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, again, it's something that's made in the anterior pituitary, and it communicates with that thyroid gland itself to make T4 and T3.
Right. So it isn't a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone. It, again, like you said, tells the thyroid, it stimulates the thyroid. It's in the name. It says exactly what it's supposed to do, right? But does it tell us anything about how the thyroid is actually producing hormone or functioning?
Or converting hormone?
Yeah.
Not at all.
No.
It doesn't look to see if there's immune system involvement. Again, there's so many different factors that dance with the thyroid, right? The adrenals. We talk a lot about cortisol and how it sits on a teeter-totter all the time with the thyroid. We talk a lot about insulin resistance. You have to talk about the environment. You have to talk about estrogens themselves. There's so many different factors that play a role in thyroid hormone function. And if you don't test for them, you're going to be in the dark, right? So commonly, just off the top of my head, and I can give you a list. Actually, we have a PDF that breaks down how can they access the PDF of thyroid labs.
You could send us an email.
Yeah, you could send us an email to wesleychapel@thewellnessway.com. We can send you a PDF, and it breaks down every marker that we like to look at for thyroid function. Okay, it tells you why we like that marker, what that marker means to us, and then basically how to ask your doctor for it. But commonly, we like to look at T4 and T3, the total values and the free values, what's able to be used, what's not able to be used, right? We also like to take a look at how well that hormone is being bound, how well it's being transported. We like to take a look at something called reverse T3, which is the inactive form of T3, right? Especially if we're in a hyper or an acute stress response. Other factors that play a role in thyroid hormone health would be like B vitamins, folate, vitamin D. Those are all big factors as well. Obviously, the thyroid antibodies. We like to look at insulin, blood sugar response, right? What else am I missing?
The gut.
The gut.
Yeah.
I was just going through the blood work, but
and iron and anemia markers,
anemia
ferritin.
panels, right? I mean, you can do the CBC and CMP. You get a good idea of liver function. You get an idea of infection, parasitic infection, things like that on a CBC. You can have signs of that.
What about viruses?
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
Go for it, since I've just been yapping.
So there are viruses that can interfere with thyroid function, specifically Epstein-Barr virus, I think is the most common culprit, which is what's going to cause mononucleosis, right? So if you've ever been diagnosed with mono in your lifetime, you're more likely to have thyroid issues because the virus itself really likes the thyroid gland.
Or if we're talking about the gut, Yersinia is a common bacteria.
Yeah.
Right?
So on a CBC, right, you were talking about you can see other things that can cause or contribute to thyroid problems. Those lymphocyte ratios that can determine whether or not a virus is contributing to that. I very commonly will see elevated lymphocyte ratios compared to neutrophils in patients who are having issues with thyroid and have a reactivated virus.
Yep. Yeah, there was a cool way to remember roughly what they should be, right? And it was never let my engine blow
60-30.
60-30-8-3-0.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. So
Right?
that's your neutrophils, lymphocytes, eosinophils. Oh, never let my engine. Sorry, my bad. Monocytes, then eosinophils, and then basophils.
Yeah,
And
sure.
those are all of the immune system cells, the white blood cells.
Yes, and you need proper gut health for those things to be made and matured. Okay. Awesome. I think that breaks the myth.
Yeah. You
Right?
need lots more labs than just TSH.
The thyroid, any organ in our body doesn't just function independently on its own. It communicates with the rest of the body. There's outside influences, there's internal influences, and you should be taking a full look of how our body's functioning entirely, especially the thyroid, because it communicates with the entire body. Like I said, right, we have thyroid receptor sites on every cell in our body besides red blood cells. It is extremely important to look at the gut, to look at the liver, to look at the environment, right? Take a look at the lymphatic system and drainage, right? All of those things are extremely important in thyroid function.
Yeah, and that's why the symptoms are so widespread because of the fact that our thyroid impacts so many different organ systems.
And it's not going to be the same for every person at all.
Mm-mm.
So if you have not had proper thyroid hormone testing, if you haven't had a deeper dive into your immune system health, your thyroid health, definitely send us a message. You can click on a link in the show notes. You can schedule a complimentary discovery call to learn more what it's like to work with us and get that proper testing done. Awesome. Are we ready to move on to our next segment?
Yes, we are.
All right. Alrighty, welcome into the news section of this episode. And we have 3 really cool pieces of news to share with you today. We're going to start with what Lena has on her handy dandy sheet of paper.
My sheet of paper.
Your cheat sheet.
My cheat sheet, yes. Okay, so there was a new study done last month. Also, August 15th of 2025, they released the study that PFAS exposure found to trigger epigenetic changes linked to thyroid disease. So what are epigenetics? That is that your environment helps to express certain genes in your body. So it's really interesting that these PFAs, the forever chemicals, can change your gene expression. So kind of, confirming that we understand that your genes don't load the gun, or your genes load the gun, but your environment is what actually determines disease patterns.
Yeah, and these forever chemicals, they're a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legislation going on or trying to move in a certain direction to help mitigate a lot of that risk and damage. I feel like that's one thing that I've been kind of critical with the MAHA movement on, because they've kind of taken a step backwards in that direction. But it's not just the forever chemicals. It's a lot of things that can definitely cause this epigenetic response, right? I mean, it's heavy metals, it's mold, it's foods, it's every choice that you make on a daily basis can contribute to this, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's just, it's not just endocrine disruptors that are causing our hormones to be out of or they're not just influencing our hormones, they're also influencing our gene expression, which influences your children's gene expression, which influences their children's gene expression. So it's not just you. This isn't just about you. This is about future generations down the road. Why do you think so many of us are our age, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, all of us are struggling a lot with our health more than, the boomers did, because of the choices that they were able to make back then, right? Even like smoking cigarettes while you were pregnant was allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that affected people like us at our age? Because, we've been in this evolutionary process, and our genes can be altered based off of other people's genes being altered.
Yeah. So if you don't necessarily want to make the change for yourself, make it for the next generation. I feel like that's the takeaway message that we have.
Absolutely. Right? I think we took that approach pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Like we thought to ourselves, hey, we're going to have children one day. We have Vinny. We want to make sure he is the healthiest that he can be. So we make the decisions for ourselves, also not only for ourselves, but to emulate to him what behaviors he should be having so that he can influence future generations too.
Right. And when that's the best thing that you can do if you're trying to get someone else to start making a change with their health, is just start practicing what you preach. You have to show them, right? If you're going to say, oh, hey, you should do this, you should do that, but you're not doing it yourself, they're less likely to follow, right? So if you can make the right decisions, Vinny is watching everything that we do.
They're
right?
Little sponges.
He seriously, he watches what we eat.
Yes,
he watches how we eat. He watches how we take care of our bodies, how we take care of our home, right? He picks up on those things, right? Not even just Vinny. My sister, my brother-in-law, parents, your parent, people watch what we do, right? And that's the best part about this, right? Is if we can be a role model for them and just a little bit rub off, then they're slowly going to start making those changes.
Yeah, it's really cool to know when people are watching you, because I'll get a message every once in a while like, hey, I've been following you for a while, and they'll ask me a question about something health related, and I'm like, oh, that makes me feel so good that what I'm doing, what I'm saying is actually making an impact on people. And I think that means a lot more than anything.
100%. And that's where we try to pour into you guys as much as possible, into our network, obviously our social media, now creating the podcast. We have blogs, we have newsletters, we have so much content on our website. We have so much free information for you guys to just be sponges, right? And absorb. And it happens all the time. I had someone in one of my networking groups just reach out, after one of the meetings and say, I've never made an appointment with you, right? That's fine. But my life has completely changed because of you. I've started implementing everything that you said. I've changed my diet. I focus on cleaning up the things in my home. I've started moving my body more and exercising. I've focused on things that you would bring up each week at our networking meetings, or things that you posted on social media. And I've done this over the course of 2 years that I've been in that group with those individuals. And you can tell, right? Energy, mindset, mood, everything changes. Better business owner. That's the coolest thing in the world. And not one thing did he have to pay for from us.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I had a similar situation. Someone messaged me and said, I watch all of your thyroid videos. This was literally about their thyroid health. They said, I went to my doctor and they tried to bully me into taking a medication. And I looked at all of your videos, and it actually helped me advocate for myself in my appointments. And I was able to ask questions, and I could finally get the actual answers that I was looking for. And they said that they just appreciated what we were putting out, because it again, it just helped her to be a better advocate, which is exactly what we want.
And that's how it should be, right? It's your body. You get to make choices. You should also be able to be informed and have that informed consent with any procedure or process, or the word I'm looking for is just their plan, essentially. If their plan is medications, you should be able to know what those do, the side effects, how long you're going to be on those types of things. You should have that informed consent, and you should be a part of a team, right, making these decisions. We sit down with our patients all the time and we're like, okay, this is what we're seeing functionally, right? This is what you're doing with that doctor or that doctor, right? We're a team. Here's what I'm presenting, right? Does this make sense to you? Does this timeline make sense to you, right? Do you understand what roles and responsibilities you have? Because this isn't just me telling you or reading your labs and saying this is what it is, and here, take this one thing. It's teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go home and actually take the steps to improve your health and understand and learn what's going on with your body.
Yep.
I think it's really bizarre if someone has a diagnosis and they come to us, or they just walk around and they don't know what it really means.
I'd say that's more common than we even realize.
And that's because doctors are not teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor means teacher, and that's the last thing that they're doing. They're just giving.
Yeah. I mean, let's not generalize and say that it's all doctors. All right.
No, it's not.
There are good doctors out there that do try to help these people implement these diet and lifestyle changes, but a lot of people are very resistant to it, or they don't want to hear it. I mean,
Mhm.
how many people do we talk to on a daily basis that I have had a patient literally tell me at a follow-up appointment. I gave her the plan. I laid out exactly what she needed to do. And I asked her at her follow-up, I said, how are you doing with your diet? How are you doing with, the changes that we talked about? She said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. You know what I said? I said, then you're not going to get better. Like, it's that simple.
Sure.
So.
And maybe that's where there's some disconnect too. I mean, obviously the standard appointment length, if you're going to your primary care, is roughly 6 minutes long. With specialists, it's closer to 12 to 15 minutes, but still not enough time to sit down, come up with a game plan, right? Dive into, entire health history. But again, it does come down to the choices and decisions that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are pretty simple.
Yep.
Okay. Let's just get into one more since we talked there for a little while.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about what Marty Makary and the FDA is doing as far as the CV-19 boosters, especially for children. They're basically saying that they aren't required anymore. Obviously, this is a recommendation. You have the choice to do whatever you want with that. And they're also going to they're actually going to mandate more testing. Okay. Not on the CV-19 vaccination versus a different vaccination. They're going to actually look at placebos.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Finally.
So
interesting. That's crazy. I mean, think of what we went through in all these, how many years? It's been 5 years to get to this point.
Yeah, a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were saying it from the very beginning.
Right.
That something is wrong.
Yeah.
So, Marty Makary is doing a really good job there. He's a really good, piece or source that you can have. He's on X, he's on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow him. He's always posting what the FDA is doing, what changes they're making, how they're trying to improve public health. Great resource.
Yeah.
So
that's great though. Informed consent is everything.
What and yeah, you should be able to make your decisions.
Sure.
Right? It's not saying, hey, you do this or do that.
Right.
It's here's what's out there. The data isn't clear. Make the decision that you want for you and for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome. Anything else?
No.
All right. Let's move on to the next segment.
All right.
Which is
your mailbag.
See?
I forgot again.
The mailbag, and then we do the homework.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions, then homework.
Let's get it right. So we have our root cause rundown,
yes.
And then we dive into the Mythbusters, and then we dive into the news. And then after that, we go right into the
mailbag.
And then we go into our health homework for the
yes.
day. Okay,
yes.
Let's get into the mailbag.
Awesome. All right, we are in the mailbag section where you guys submit your questions and we provide answers.
As best as we can.
As best as we can, yes. Okay, so this question, I don't think we talked about this.
I'm flying blind here. I have no idea what the questions are.
I don't think
today.
we talked about this in our rundown. But the question is, why do I have to avoid gluten if I have Hashimoto's?
Ooh, really good question. Yeah, it's not just gluten, it's dairy too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something called molecular mimicry. Okay, so essentially what this means is our body gets confused on what gluten and dairy look like in our system and can essentially exacerbate and contribute to that antibody response and damage. right?
Yep.
And that those antibodies, those thyroid peroxidase, those thyroglobulin antibodies, what they're doing is impacting how well you're producing and converting that thyroid hormone.
Yep.
So basically, it's better to just avoid it because it's tricking your body. Also, I will say gluten in general is going to contribute to leaky gut more times than not. And if you have leaky gut or that increased intestinal permeability, that's just driving autoimmune response anyway.
Yeah. And if you guys want to learn more about healing leaky gut or what it means in further detail, make sure you check the show notes for the link to our free leaky gut guide.
It's great.
Yes. Okay. Number 2 question. Why do I still have thyroid symptoms even though I'm on medication? I think we kind of talked about this.
Yeah, right. So just because they're monitoring that TSH value does not mean your metabolism and thyroid is functioning optimally the way that it should.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
One thing that I'd like to say too, and without confusing too many people, is if you have those thyroid antibodies, what they can do is they can artificially inflate how much thyroid hormone you have in your system, while simultaneously destroying that thyroid gland.
Mm-hmm.
So short term, you could have high levels of thyroid hormone and feel fine, feel great. And then as that hormone gets destroyed time after time again, then that's where it starts depleting.
Yep.
Right. And so you'll have this back and forth, especially as the flares continue. And it's really hard to, understand what's that normal for you. So
Good answer. Another question about the thyroid, and then we have a personal question.
cool.
So, this question was, what is the most common cause of thyroid nodules? It is iodine deficiency.
Yes, it is.
But don't just take iodine if you have a thyroid disease. You don't always need more iodine. That's not always the issue, right? But the most common cause of thyroid nodules is going to be iodine deficiency. You can get iodine through your food. What are the best sources of iodine, would you say? Kelp is one.
Eggs.
Eggs. And
Eggs is
I think lamb.
Yeah.
Lamb chops.
I mean,
or something.
meat. You're gonna get some from red meat, but yeah, kelp. Eggs is probably the most convenient source for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yep. All right. Personal question. Are you ready?
let's do it.
How do you both balance stress and your thyroid health while running a business and raising Vinny? That's a great question.
Well, yeah, and just to break it down, if you're trying to address your thyroid health, managing stress is the way to do it. And we talk about it all the time. There's 3 different types of stressors. There's traumas, toxins, and thoughts. Breaking all of those down is going to look different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everyone's going to have different recipes of traumas, toxins, and thoughts that drive stress to the body. To cover the thoughts thing, I mean, we've even flirted around with just doing like family therapy.
Yeah.
Not like there's anything crazy going on, but like just learning how to do things,
how to be a better parent.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
I think we unplug a lot. We unplugged on Labor Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got outside,
Yeah.
went by the pool. I think
Went for a
that's
walk.
really important. We always talk about communication, toxins and thoughts. Like, I mean, we live that, right? I mean, if you're curious on like what products we use, what things we use in the home, from cleaning supplies to things that we cook with to things that we cook on, there's a link that Lena can put in the show notes with her low tox guide, right? With all that information for you.
You can also join our Healthcare Rewritten Facebook group where I post almost daily about toxin-free living and all of the other health news updates that we talk about on the podcast as well.
And then for traumas, real quick, I would say that we get adjusted and move our body.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
What would you say? Because
yeah, I mean, it's a little different for me right now just because, I mean, have you ever had a thyroid issue in your life?
No, I mean, I've had my labs run hundreds of times. TSH is in range. I've never had antibodies.
That's crazy.
I know.
You've never had antibodies.
Never had
antibodies. Well, I guess it's more common in women than men because of the estrogen, right? So I will say that for me, obviously post-college, I had issues with my thyroid. I had hypothyroidism. And then postpartum, I reran my labs. I did have thyroid antibodies, which I've never had before. But it's very common to have postpartum thyroiditis. And so I have worked really heavily on honing in on my diet more than anything. To avoid that type of stressors, because obviously my sleep patterns are a little bit different because Vinny just really doesn't like to sleep through the night for some reason. But yeah, as far as managing stress, like Dr. Collin said, I work through getting adjusted, right? I hone in on my diet for the toxicity component and what I use on my skin, on my clothes, in our house. And then the thoughts aspect, I try to get as much sleep as I can to help my mood so that we don't cause arguments or stress between each other. But yeah, we did talk about family therapy. I think that there's no shame in doing that, especially if you want to be a better parent and you want to raise a healthy child both mentally and physically.
100%.
So
Awesome. I think those are great answers. I hope you learned something from those answers. Obviously, everything is case specific. If you have a thyroid condition, don't take this podcast as, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. Use this information that we're showing you. Continue your education, look things up, have these conversations with your providing doctors. If you're not getting answers, reach out to us. We'd love to help. We're not saying that we have to replace the doctor that you have. We love to co-manage, especially with endocrinologists. That's where we get our best feedback. I've had multiple reach out and just, what are you doing? How's it going?
yeah.
Or they're grateful, or they're communicating that to the patient that they're very happy that they're doing all these additional things.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's a good mailbag segment. Again, if you want to send us more questions, you can send them to either of us on our personal pages on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. You can email us at wesleychapel@thewellnessway.com for your question to get answered.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our health homework.
Let's do it.
All right, we are in our health homework section where we give you one tangible thing you can take home today to start living a healthier life. What is yours, Dr. Collin?
Putting me on the spot. Okay. I think it's important to educate yourself, right? So this is primarily for individuals who feel like they have a thyroid problem. Maybe they already have a diagnosis, but I really encourage you to download the thyroid lab guide that we have for you, basically breaking down what markers we like to look at, why they're important. Educate yourself on that so you can advocate for yourself when going to your doctors, and maybe just in general to make sure that everyone listening has something tangible that they can do if you have a diagnosis. Okay. Look into it. Make yourself aware of what's really going on. I'm not saying you need to go to medical school, right? Or write a whole paragraph presentation on that diagnosis, but be informed with what it is. What things can you do? What things can you actually take control of to help improve that response that your body is having?
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually will link the guide in the show notes for you guys for the thyroid labs.
Cool.
So it'll give you a list of all of the thyroid labs that we run on our patients, why we run them, why they're important, and why you should get them looked at.
Cool.
My health homework is to eat 2 Brazil nuts a day. 2 Brazil nuts a day gives you enough selenium to support your thyroid. You don't need much, obviously, but Brazil nuts are going to be the highest source of selenium that you can get from your diet. I know lots of people like to supplement with selenium, and that's totally fine, but the best source from your diet. I really love to give people options as far as where we can get nutrients from our foods. So Brazil nuts are going to be your best option, and you only need to do 2 a day.
It's not that bad.
No.
Great piece of homework.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it's relatively inexpensive.
Right.
And for all of you wondering, Brazil nuts, they're not like this rare thing. They're at almost every grocery store. You're just probably not looking for them. So keep an eye out for them next time that you go shopping.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. That concludes everything today.
Yes.
Right. Next week, we are going to be talking all about
insulin
and metabolic health.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be dropping the next Thursday, roughly at 6 a.m. So on your way to work, on your way to school in the morning, you can definitely take a listen to that. It'll be up all weekend, and then you'll have one the following week and the week after that until the end of time.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to share before we head on out of here?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
All right, we're going to head on out. We're going to get home. We're going to
cook some burgers.
That's what we're doing
some
on the Blackstone.
Grass-fed beef patties from Costco.
On the Blackstone.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to another episode of the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. Don't forget to check the show notes for all the guides that we mentioned, the thyroid guide and the leaky gut guide and the low tox guide. They're great resources for you to take advantage of. Make sure that you tune in next week where we talk all about insulin and metabolic health. See you next week.